Good day, guys and gals, and to our non binary pals. And today we're going to talk about quiet quitting. Last week, I had a discussion with my son, who just recently graduated from college and is now a new member of the workforce, about this issue called quiet quitting. And from that discussion, uh, we basically agreed that this supposedly new phenomenon called quiet quitting is not necessarily a new thing. And it's something that's been happening, and that's been happening for the longest time. And the term quiet quitting is just a new way of calling uh, behavior that's been in existence ever since, I guess, human society started. And it's not new. And but this latest internet buzzword really uh, got a lot of talk because of, as an extension, I guess, of what they called the Great Resignation, which happened the past 2 years, specifically in the United States, where supposedly a lot of people started, resigning from their jobs, and which this created a very tight labor market. And this situation created a the perfect environment for people to be able to, you know, quiet quit because of the tight labor market, wherein businesses and employers really were just looking for people to fill the jobs that needed to be filled. So again, it's this phenomenon is not unique to Gen Z. I've seen this behavior with my generation, Gen X, and I'm pretty sure this happened with even the greatest generation. The people who call themselves the greatest generation, and it's not new. The thing is, this behavior, even if we look at it from an evolution perspective, the perspective of evolution, humans basically, when we were back in the time when we were like foraging and hunting, people didn't spend their whole time uh, hunting and gathering. In fact, most of the time they're probably resting because energy was so difficult to come by, and therefore we were genetically, or evolution created this urge for people to actually be lazy for most of the time unless they actually need to do something, because energy in the form of calories, food, was so scarce. Of course, this isn't the situation for most people nowadays, but that evolution is still guiding a lot of, or influencing a lot of our behaviors. So one can argue that quiet quitting, or being lazy, or whatever you want to call it, is genetic, and we're actually predisposed to do as little as possible to get the most effect, right? So, and the definition of quiet quitting, I from what I've seen, varies from the gamut of, like, people who just believe that there should be work-life balance, and people should put more emphasis on their personal lives as opposed to their jobs, uh, and to the other extreme where people think that quiet quitting is just doing the bare minimum to get by and not get fired. So even the definition, there's no actual definition of what it actually means or what it actually stands for. But now the question is, now that we know that, generally people are generally predisposed to be lazy, uh, and it's not something new, is this a valid strategy or a good idea to live by when it comes to work? And it basically boils down to what your goals are. If your goal is just to coast along as easy as possible, and with as little hassle as possible, and you're happy where you are, one could argue that this strategy is perfectly viable. That is, of course, assuming that the economy is healthy and there is a tight labor market, and your job is secure, and you're not in danger of getting fired anytime soon. On the other hand, if your goal is really to move up and you're looking for advancement in your career or your life, this isn't exactly a very valid strategy, as anybody who is seen or who is espousing this kind of philosophy will most probably get uh, ignored when there's a opportunity to advance or to get promoted. And we're not, let's not even talk about getting promotions or getting ahead in life, but basically your reputation in the workplace. So if you're viewed as somebody who's basically a loafer, or somebody who has their weight carried around by others, then it's not necessarily a good thing for your work reputation. And to add to that, even if your goal was just to secure your job and maintain it, it's not even a good strategy, because the moment there's an economic downturn, or if there's a reason for the company to cut costs, guess whose head is going to be the first on the chopping block? So it's not really a very valid strategy. When you're in a job, and if you want to keep your job, the best strategy is always to make yourself hard to replace. Of course, everyone's replaceable, but make it hard for them to replace you. So at least that makes makes your job a little bit more secure. And so, and then let's look at this from the point of view of a freelancer or an entrepreneur, where quiet quitting isn't really even a remotely valid strategy, because you're working for yourself. So who are you quiet quitting on? Yourself? It doesn't even make sense. Uh, so at the end of the day, I believe quiet quitting, from the from the whole spectrum of what it means, I believe in work-life balance. So I don't believe that people should really risk life and limb for their job, but I also don't believe it's a valid strategy for anyone to just do the bare minimum that's required to keep your job. Again, like I said, there's dangers, and it doesn't mean, just because you're doing the bare minimum, doesn't mean you're actually going to get to keep your job. So at the end, it's really about your personal goals and your personal discipline. And I guess that's all there is to it when it comes to quiet quitting. And that's my point of view. You may look at things differently, but if you feel differently, feel free to comment in the comment section. And once again, thank you. If I would really appreciate if you would click like and subscribe. Magandang araw po.